This show is brought to you by Databril, the scalable Amazon PPC management for large Amazon sellers and brands. Visit sellersessions.com/agency for more details. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today we're going to be talking about digging deep into the psyche of the Chinese, understanding how they work. I brought in David today because he wrote an amazing article giving us a full look on how the Chinese operate, competition advantages, etc. It's probably the best piece I've ever read on the culture. David, can you give yourself an introduction? Explain to people who you are.
Hey, Danny. Thanks for having me here. My name is David. I come from Italy, but I've been working in China for the past 4 years. I've been working with Shenzhen main sellers for 2 years. I was marketing director for ATC Lamsing. And I was marketing team leader for Sun Valley. Is a big seller, big company. They are top sellers in Amazon for Rough Power, Tautronics, and other brands. So they're quite good.
Talk me through the product research and the mindset here, please.
It's a huge difference between the West and China. How Chinese sellers, they operate the product, the research about the product, and how they are obsessed with their competitors. So some of my friends, who have been working together with me with Chinese companies, they said that at the end of the day, and I agree with this statement, at the end of the day, the whole work of the Chinese seller, of the account manager, can be summarized in an entire huge Excel spreadsheet. Right. And it makes sense because to Chinese sellers, to the account managers, and also to the upper level of the management, the numbers have much more value than what the value that they have for the Western sellers. Yeah. We are used to approach the whole market and marketing and sales strategy with the branding view, but this is different from what the Chinese sellers do. They spend a lot of time in researching the competitors, the top keywords, researching the price. If the price is, if a competitor has got a $9 price on their item, they will try to make it $8 or $7.99 or whatever can beat the competition for what it means. Another very important thing is that they have a lot of search tools that shows the entire competition, how the sales rank changes. And when they notice a small change, they won't immediately understand what happened. If the competitor have probably maybe changes some keywords, if they added something on the back end, if they added a particular feature, if they changed the listing in somehow. So they're really careful to what's happening, because at the end of the day, like we will see later on in some other topics, what really matters is the final sale. So for them, it's very important to be careful, to constantly research what's happening in the market.
Yeah. Here, one of the biggest problems we have is that people procrastinate. They do the research. The research just becomes too much for them because they overindulge in it and they can't see the wood for the trees. But the interesting thing that you just pulled out there is that when the Chinese notice something, there's a slight change and they jump on that change and look at that trend. I think what we can do over here, because we've got a lot of tools, less so of the proprietary tools. I imagine the Chinese have got a lot of proprietary tools that they're doing, very technology driven, especially my visit to Shenzhen. It's a technology town. It's a Chinese version of Silicon Valley, if you like. A lot of manufacturing in terms of electronics and stuff there. And a lot of the brains and the talent are in Shenzhen. I think what we tend to do here in the West is that we will look at doing the research, but we capture a moment in time. So our research stops once you've got it to the factory stage. So you go, right, I'm going to look for this product, and then you find it and you use all your Google Trends and your data and stuff that you got. And then suddenly you move into factory mode, you move into branding mode. But I'm imagining the Chinese are watching this all the way through. So like when they're working on the product and they're at factory level, they're actually still checking the data. They're still reverse engineering what their competitors and stuff are doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this. We definitely have a different approach to the market and to what selling on Amazon means, or selling, in the e-commerce world, in any other platforms as well. The Chinese actually, they bring their product like a baby, and they bring it through the entire process, always being careful to what's happening to the surrounding of that product. And especially paying very careful attention to their competitors. So I remember when I was working with Sam Valley as team leader for the marketing team, we were just the marketing outside of Amazon. We were at that time around 10, 15 foreigners. So different foreigners for different, jobs and countries. But then there was a huge team of sellers, of account managers just for the sales. They were constantly keeping an eye on Anchor, because Anchor was the main competitor at that time. I mean, it's always been the main competitor for Rough Power. One is Amazon Choice, the other one is Bestseller on Amazon. So they're always fighting. And they were constantly keeping an eye on Anchor. So anything they could acquire from Anchor, they would just put it on the listing and put on the sales strategy.
Yeah, I think which leads me into my next question. The thing with Anchor, I think they lead the way in most cases. I call them like the Apple of private labeling. They're the guys that you look to, I think, as a Chinese company. Chinese are not, until recently, have not been very much known for their branding expertise and stuff like that. But Anchor is definitely a benchmark for people to look at in terms of beautiful product design. Yeah, great branding, fantastic marketing. What they do is they do an incredible job. And even the West can look at Anchor and go, even their inserts, most people are looking at the Anchor inserts that go in there and they go, these are great. Like, have you seen them like, happy, not happy, and you flip them over? Genius. I mean, so many people, like I might buy a set of lightning cables from another company and they literally rip off the Anchor insert. So in most cases, they lead the way. But what I wanted to talk about in my second question here is the product performance over branding, which is very key here, because obviously in the West, we're very much driven by the branding aspect. And I think part of that as well, and I had this conversation with some Chinese sellers. I can't go in deep into the conversations we had, that's private. But one of the things that we were discussing is like, what can we do more? And I said to them, look, you've nailed manufacturing. You guys very clearly understand the marketing, and you're now picking up on the branding aspect. So you're kind of really moving ahead now. I think the only thing that would separate the West from China is if you can really get the quality and the branding to work in unison as one, you've literally covered everything, because you've already got manufacturing, market and everything else. You're catching up. But I think the one element that you're missing may be a cultural element, where you might say, we can manufacture at a lower price and sell at a lower price. But what about if you actually went and bought all the products off Amazon, like your competitors' products off Amazon, instead of just looking at reviews, and compare all those products to your product, make a premium product, and then sell that at the same price as everyone's standard product? Does that make sense? But they seem to be driven by performance. So talk to me about brands, the fluid identities, and etc.
Yeah, so this is a very important point here that explains the basic of how the Chinese sellers work today compared to the way that we work, we Western. And you said it correctly. It's a product selection. So the selection of the actual product that you will sell is based on the performance, on the sales performance, on the numbers, like we were saying before, rather than the actual branding itself. So it all started with this realization that I had. There is a lot of sellers, Chinese sellers, even not just talking about the big brands, but the medium, the low brands. Especially this practice was very common a few years back. They were doing the net fishing marketing or sales on Amazon. It means throwing thousands of products on Amazon, hoping that a few tens or hundreds of them would actually make a good sale, good profit and good income. So the thing is, Anchor became big thanks to Amazon, because Amazon is providing, big quality and reviews, this entire system that actually protects the customer. So the customer feels happy with buying Anchor because Amazon gives this protection and it's a guarantee for quality. Anchor became big actually by selling on Amazon. Did they start getting serious by selling this particular product, power bank and consumer electronics, just because it was making profit at that time? Or did they actually have a real strategy? Did they have a sales strategy to sell this kind of product? The answer here is quite complicated, but the answer is not as close as what we would think. That yeah, maybe they had a strategy, they wanted to do some proper branding, and then they decided, yeah, wow, power bank is actually selling well. They didn't do it because of this. They probably did it because power bank was really one of the thousands or hundreds of products that were actually selling good. And actually the power banks were satisfying a need, were solving a problem at that time. That was 4, 5, 6 years ago, that was not satisfied, was not solved by any other product. And it's made in China, it's cheap. The whole competition in between brands, Rough Power, Anchor, okay, and other brands, it made in a way that the design itself went better and better. The customer service went better and better, just because Amazon requirements are very high. So this is what happened actually. All the other brands inside the company, for example, inside Sun Valley, Tautronics, they were selling a lot of different products. Where actually this shows that the branding itself is not as important as the final sale. The performance is the most important, and the performance sometimes doesn't have anything to do with the brand, because we were talking about Tautronics. Tautronics started selling LED lamps, table lamps, and other related accessories, but they had something to do with LED light. What happens is that now Tautronics is also selling Bluetooth speakers and adapters and audio devices. Why did it happen so? Because Tautronics was surfing this wave on Amazon where they were getting a lot of reviews, so the brand was recognized. And Sun Valley thought, okay, if this brand is selling well right now, why don't we just add some more products? It would not hurt. Because anyway, what really matters for the customer, especially back 3-4 years ago, is not the brand itself, but is the protection that they have from Amazon. Is the security that they're buying a good quality product. It doesn't matter if it's made in China, because Amazon, through the review system and to the very strict control, make you sure that this is a good product. This might not be the best product, but it's a product that you can rely on. So that's why they were pushing inside, putting inside, throwing inside different kind of products. And for the same reason that we see that, for example, Rough Power has been selling also a Swiss Army knife that doesn't have anything to do with the brand itself. Why would you sell an army knife, a Swiss Army knife, if you're doing power banks? Well, because they did the research. Again, the research showed that there's a potential of profit, and they throw it in. They were, at this point, when you see that you have a new product that is potentially good, it's a question of which of the brands that you're having right now within your company would make it a better fit in. And that's pretty much how the big companies think.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the get shit done approach to the Chinese.
Yeah. So a huge difference in the two approaches between Western and Chinese way of selling online is the highly practical culture in China. So when I just joined the companies in China, when I just joined Sun Valley, I realized that the working culture here is very different, because in the West there is more, when you are launching, for example, a new product or a new brand, you have to go through a lot of steps. For example, it would be planning, researching, doing analysis, making a strategy, then getting an approval by different departments, and then actually putting in action the sales and doing then more analysis, more research, and then going again in a loop. But this loop might be a little bit slower than what is the approach in China. So what actually prevails in China is, we said it right, get shit done. That is much different from the approach that we have in our Western culture. So what happens is that because the Chinese people, because they have this huge competition that is internal and also external, because they feel this competition, what really matters at the end of the day is the speed, is how quick you are in launching a new product in the market. And fortunately or unfortunately, today, especially in marketplaces like Amazon, the speed is actually a quality that can prevail to a flawless quality of the product itself. Because as is written in the article, by the time that really that a Western company can do all the research, the Chinese counterpart will have already launched the next product, or will have done more analysis, more research on this product and increase the features. So you as a user, you don't know actually who is who on Amazon unless you do some research. But as we said before, it doesn't really matter who's the brand on Amazon unless you're on a higher level, unless you're spending bigger money. But when I think that this whole approach and this whole thinking is valid for products that are not very expensive, I would say below 50 US dollar or 50 euro. So because the branding here doesn't really matter as long as you have a lot of reviews, you have good feedback, and Amazon is still showing it in the first pages, then you would choose, of course, a better product with different features that approach the market first. So the Chinese sellers, because of this practical culture, they can get everything in the market much faster than what the Western counterpart can do.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Please rejoin us in a couple of days for part 2 on how the Chinese Amazon sellers are winning the race. Thanks again for your ears and your time. See you real soon. Bye for now.